All right, the Gators pick up their fifth commitment for the 2024 class. Defensive back safety Josiah Davis commits to the Gators. We'll get into it right here on Gators Breakdown.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
All right, the 2024 class coming together right here with the fifth commitment, Josiah Davis. We'll talk about it right here on Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Gators Breakdown on YouTube if you haven't done so yet. Coming at you with a commitment episode, of course, with a safety, Josiah Davis from the state of Georgia. We'll get into what he's about, what he's bringing to the table for Corey Raymond back there in that secondary. But hit that like button. Subscribe to Gators Breakdown if you haven't done so yet. Join Gators Breakdown Plus if you want to keep this conversation going. Of course, with a new commitment, the conversation ramps up just a bit on that recruiting channel on Gators Breakdown Plus, that Discord server. So if you want to take part, join in with a conversation with some other Gator fans, you can do so right there. And also, don't forget, gatorsbreakdownmerch.com. There's some new Gators Breakdown merchandise right there for you. Hats, new designs, all that good stuff there. gatorsbreakdownmerch.com. That's one way you can help support Gators Breakdown and what we're doing right here, bringing you Gators content, Gators football content, all football all the time. This time on the recruiting side of things, and you know how we do it, Gator Nation, we got to commit, and it is Josiah Davis. He commits to Florida over Tennessee, Kentucky, Louisville, and NC State from Nashville, Georgia. Comes in at 6'1", 185 pounds. Now, I know the first thing, as we mostly all do, we're going to look at the rankings and see where these guys are ranked, and you're not going to find much here right now on Josiah Davis. 24/7 Sports is the only service out there that has a ranking on him. 3-star, 41st ranked safety in the country. Currently not ranked on On3, but Corey Bender from On3 says that will change soon. Now, he is an athlete, and that may have something to do with it, because we'll get into a quote that Davis himself has said. So him being labeled an athlete may have something to do with all the rankings. He'll be pegged into a safety role for the Gators, and he didn't get the Florida offer until February, but that made an immediate impact. Napier and the area recruitment there in the Georgia area, middle Georgia, southeast Georgia area, Jay Bateman, they love this kid's film. And then a quote from Davis earlier: they like the way I move and how athletic I am. It was going to be hard for them at first to see what side of the ball I was going to play on, because some schools say they like me on offense. I told Florida I want to play on defense, so they offered me there. And that comes from 24/7 Sports, Blake Alderman. So there you go. That may have something to do with the ranking a bit here, and deciding athlete, offensive player, defensive player. Well, obviously he wants to play defense, and obviously he's going to play defense at Florida. So just to let you know what type of player he is, and maybe why that athlete staple is out there for him. Rushed 104 times for 895 yards, 12 touchdowns. Also threw a touchdown pass, caught 2 touchdowns. Defensively, 70 tackles, 1 interception, and that was returned for a touchdown. Huge impact on special teams as well, taking 7 kickoffs back for touchdowns, averaging 51 yards a return. Multi-sport athlete, also runs track, plays basketball. Excuse me. As an 11th grader, posted times of 11.43 and 11.21 in the 100-meter dash. So at the very least here for Florida, a special teams player for the Gators, but who are we to question what Corey Raymond wants back there in that defensive backfield? So he has the size, has the speed, has the measurables Corey Raymond likes for his safety prospects. And if you go look at his huddle highlight, now, of course, highlights, so not a lot of bad stuff on these highlights. But as a defender, shows the ability to diagnose plays in front of you. That was the first thing I noticed. Now, a lot of these highlights were his kickoff returns. And okay, since he's going to play safety at Florida, I'm more concerned with the defense. But so in coming with these defensive highlights, diagnoses plays in front of him very well, comes down, makes the tackle, sheds blocks in the process. And in those highlights, took good angles to the ball carrier to limit yards after the catch. On a pass to a running back, he defends a handoff by taking on blockers and makes the running back stretch to play outside, where he then sheds the block and makes the tackle for a loss. You can tell just by looking at these highlights that he's looking to get involved in plays. And he showed that whether he lined up as a deep safety or closer to the line of scrimmage in the nickel star spot there. One play you'll love, he's on a blitz where the quarterback scrambles. He chases him down for the sack all the way across the other side of the field. So effort, when you watch his highlights, no problem for Davis. And shows that even more. That last play of his highlights where there's a teammate that gets in his way when he's trying to go make a tackle. Well, he lunges for the tackle anyway, but so it doesn't happen. The teammate's in his way. The running back scampers away. He's able to get away, but Davis keeps at it, eventually catches him at the 5-yard line, about 50 yards away from where he missed the tackle earlier. But, like I said, not really fault of his own. Teammate gets in his way. But makes that tackle 50 yards away from all that action. He just didn't give up on the play. Chases the running back down at the 5-yard line. And we've seen that before. That can pay dividends. Didn't give up on the play. Didn't give up a score on that play. So going back to those highlights, as I said, look, maybe at the very least, a special teams contributor here for the Florida Gators. As a kick returner, showed the ability to break tackles, change direction, be patient, set up his blocks. There's even some wildcat quarterback highlights in there where he's taking off 50 yards for a score. Also playing the zone read for a 60-yard score. Really good all-around athlete for the Gators. And they're getting here. But going to be pegged as a safety for the Gators back there with Corey Raymond. And look at Florida's safety position right now. They're going to have to build the numbers back. Have to build some depth back. And this 24 class will be the first one under this staff where true freshmen won't have to be forced in as much as they were in the last couple of cycles, of course. I mean, if a 2024 safety, starting right here with Davis, if they find their way on the field as a true freshman, they would have earned it. Kamari Wilson, Miguel Mitchell, they'll start this coming up year for the Gators, and they'll be back next year. And then they'll return for the 24 season as the top 2 safeties as they are right now, if everything goes according to plan. And then you had this 23 cycle with a good haul back there for safety, Jordan Castell, Bryce Thornton, Aaron Gates. And as we've discussed, because of the depth limitations Florida has, the transfers, the guys going on to the NFL, these guys that are coming in for the 23 class have a chance to contribute right away. There's opportunity there for them to contribute. No more Donovan McMillan, no more Kamar Wilcoxton, no more Trey Dean, no more Rashad Torrance. So safety, plentiful with youth. So this 24 class, they'll be behind a position group that should have a lot of snaps coming up this season. It'll make it harder to break through. But if any of them prove that they can, they should be pretty special. They'll be passing up guys who get a ton of experience this year. A group that's going to get a lot of experience this year just because they have to. True freshmen last year, guys now are true sophomores. And Kamari Wilson, Miguel Mitchell, they're going to take a majority of the snaps. And the guys that come in 23 absolutely are going to get their chance. They'll get experience this year. So in 24, that's kind of the first class where Florida's able to have a little bit of luxury of maybe redshirting those guys, maybe building some depth down the line, putting a year between the 23 class and the 24 class so they don't have to force those guys into play. They'll have a little bit of depth. But those guys can break through. There'll be some special players because Wilson, Miguel will be back next year. Castell, Thornton, Gates will be back next year. And we'll see what happens in the transfer portal for the Gators too this year. They still may be hitting the transfer portal for a safety after spring practice. But the 22 class, the 23 class, they'll get a lot of experience before this 24 class hops on. So it'll be harder to break through. All right, so before we go, of course, this is the 5th commit for the Gators. Josiah Davis, the 5th commit for the 2024 class. To review it one more time, of course, DJ Lagway, quarterback for the Gators, of course, on campus this past weekend, taking part in 7-on-7 in Texas as well, keeps showing his prowess. Class headlined by him, of course, Miles Graham, Adarius Hayes, Chauncey Bowens, and now Josiah Davis to make up the 5th commit for the Gators. And look, I know we're all, like I said, we're all going to look at the rankings and not see much there. Look, this is a defensive back that's going to be coached by Corey Raymond, Billy Napier, Jay Bateman, the area recruiter there. Love his film. Corey Raymond's back there. I mean, I think we just have to trust what's going to happen here. Rankings would change this early in the process. We saw that a lot, especially for defensive back for Florida. Jakeem Jackson highlighting that one. His meteoric rise through the rankings. Of course, I'm a Stars Matter guy and all that. Of course, you guys know that. But still, I can admit early in the process here, and Corey Raymond's back there. I mean, I think we could still feel good about that no matter who Florida's taking back there. But of course, if you just go to 24/7, I mean, all 4 stars so far, and I'm sure when Davis comes in as a ranking, will probably be a 3-star. That's what he is on 24/7 sole rankings. No other recruiting service out there has him ranked. So probably will come in as a 3-star, and we'll see what happens. Does he play more defense coming up this year? Maybe that's something we find out more about him coming up, where we get to see more, where they camp more as a defender coming up. So, of course, that's where maybe your rankings would change a bit now that we know what he's going to play in college. Does he get identified there, more critiqued more there, and maybe a rankings change comes along that. But DJ Lagway, Miles Graham, Adarius Hayes, Chauncey Bowens, and now Josiah Davis. So that gives you 3 defenders in this class so far. First defensive back, Miles Graham and Adarius Hayes as the linebackers, Josiah Davis as a safety, to go along with the 2 offensive commits of DJ Lagway and Chauncey Bowens. All 4 of those guys ranked in the top 210. Lagway, 21st overall. Miles Graham, 37th overall. Adarius Hayes, 38th overall. Chauncey Bowens, 210. I still expect a rise from him coming up. As I've said many times, you guys know out there too, Georgia very interested in Chauncey Bowens. I forgot who the report came from, so excuse me for that, but I remember on Twitter and seeing it that a lot, well, no, okay, no, let me say, at least a few SEC teams have Chauncey Bowens as their top running back at the top of their board. Florida identified him early, got him in the class early. Georgia has high interest in him. Hopefully one Florida keeps coming down the road. But also maybe you see some rise from him throughout these next few months. So, all right, class of 2024 gets their 5th commitment in Josiah Davis. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown, breaking down his commitment, what he's bringing to the table for the Gators. Everybody hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe to Gators Breakdown on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. That would do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.